Chapter 6, Applying the Modality Principle by Group 1, Brandon Summerlin, Scott Harvey, Philip Burg, Jeffrey Sosa, and Sarah Bowden. Mayer recommends that e-learning courses contain redundant information from on-screen text and narration that is being presented at the same time be avoided. The reasoning behind this is that learners may pay too much attention to one form of communication. For example, they might only pay attention to the printed words and less attention to the graphics that are paired with them. Figures presented on the slide represent examples of balancing and overloading sensory channels that occur when presenting information with narration and graphics. Note that this principle may be overlooked when designing for students with disabilities. As an example, when designing for the deaf of hard of hearing students, narration alone wouldn't be accessible. Text captions or on-screen text would be required. The benefit of including these students would outweigh the potential cognitive overload. According to the cognitive load theory, our brains can only take in so much at once, especially when it comes to learning something new. When we use both the visual and auditory channels, like showing an image while speaking, we're splitting that load in a good way. It helps learners process information more efficiently. But if we try to show a graphic and add text on the screen at the same time, both are competing for the same visual space in our brains, which can be overwhelming. Using narration instead of text frees up space and actually leads to better understanding. One study by Mayer and Moreno found that students who learned with visuals and narration remembered about 50% more than those who got visuals with text. That's a huge difference. Another study by Mosavi, Lowe, and Sweller looked at students learning geometry. The group that heard the explanations did significantly better than the group that read them. Both studies show the same thing. When we reduce the load on the visual channel by using spoken words, learners really do perform better. Imagine you are watching an animation that shows how a volcano erupts. As the lava flows and pressure builds, you hear a narrator explaining each step. There's no extra text on the screen, just the visuals and the voice. This is the modality principle in action. Because your brain processes images with your eyes and sound with your ears, it doesn't get overloaded. You learn faster and remember more, because the information is split across two channels instead of crowding one. Now picture this. You're watching an animation of a volcano erupting. At the same time, paragraphs of text appear on the screen explaining what's happening. Your eyes are trying to read the text and watch the animation at the same time. It's overwhelming. You miss parts of the eruption while trying to read, and the reading feels rushed or distracting. This is a violation of the modality principle. By using both visuals and on-screen text, the lesson overloads your visual channel. There's no help from the auditory channel, so learning becomes harder. To fix this, the text should be replaced with spoken narration, so your brain can handle the information more efficiently through both ears and eyes. There are, however, a few exceptions to the modality principle. It may be within the learner's best interest to have text accompanying the audio if the words include technical, unfamiliar, or vital vocabulary, the learner experiences a learning difficulty, or the learner is an English as a second language student. Now that we have evaluated some examples and exceptions, let's ask some harder questions to ponder about the modality principle as you try and implement it into your teaching. Let's start with this first comprehension question and self-evaluate how we would implement the principle in a more complex educational situation. In lessons or videos that have dialogue between characters, should you have text on screen to go along with what they are saying, or should each scene be acted without accompanying text on the screen? The modality principle would suggest that there should not be exact text on the screen during the dialogue. However, we also know that closed captions are often needed for a diverse range of learners and situations. We have all had moments, probably, where we have needed or wanted closed captions on a TV show or movie. So would an educational lesson also benefit from the text, or does it break engagement too much by creating extraneous processing? Also, we do know that you should include the dialogue in a readable format if you have a question or prompt that is being directly asked to the learner. But if we are not asking the learner to respond to the dialogue, then would scenes be more realistic if no dialogue was present on the screen? Does engagement increase through solely acted out scenes, or would text within eyesight create some form of overloading in most learners? These are some deeper questions that may be dependent on the lesson itself, hypothetical education, or educational levels. Comprehension question 2. Suppose you are mentoring a student teacher who created an instructional video on photosynthesis. The video uses images like this one to explain how plant cells convert sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water into glucose and oxygen. It includes lengthy on-screen text and narration that reads the on-screen text aloud. How would you explain the modality principle to your mentee, and what specific changes would you recommend to improve the video's effectiveness by incorporating the modality principle?